Welcome to the Unlocking Senior Resources podcast by Leave the Key. I'm Larry Wagner, and I've spent 30 years working with seniors, where I was a certified senior advisor, and the last 15 years in the home buying industry as a certified senior transition specialist, where I specialize in dealing with seniors going through a transition in their lives. This podcast is for seniors, those with seniors they love, and people who work in the senior community. In each episode, we bring on a guest who works to improve the lives of seniors. This podcast is your key to unlocking senior resources. Welcome. Today we're here with Leslie Sultan from Sammartino and Sultan. I got that right?
You got it. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you are an attorney. We've had a few of those on, and we're looking to have a lot more because this is unlocking senior resources. And attorneys are very important to seniors doing their estate planning or for the kids of seniors doing settlements and so on and everything in between. So, but we're going to talk about powers of attorney today. But before we do that, just how did you get to become an attorney?
Great. Okay. Well, I've been practicing for 20 years now.
Okay.
Almost 20 years. My story is a little bit long. I originally lived in California and I wanted to go into prison reform. Came out to New York to connect with my roots because I had family from here, and wound up totally in a different direction. I did real estate for a while, a little bit of immigration. And during COVID, I pivoted to estate planning to try to help people avoid court because doing a lot of real estate, we did a lot of probates.
Yes.
You know, people dying, selling houses, having to go through the court process. And so then, so I wound up just pivoting to estate planning, and I just really enjoy the work. And I love that you do this as a resource to help educate the community, because once people know what they're supposed to do, then they're empowered and they can set up their estate plan. And
right.
You know,
doesn't mean they do it, but they
right.
now know they need
Yes.
to do it, and they have people with whom they can talk to and
Right.
so on. That's the whole idea of this
Otherwise,
podcast.
you're learning the hard way, and your family's fumbling through the court system. So, yeah.
I was a financial advisor for 30 years. When I sold my practice 7 years ago, my average client was 80. So I only got them upon retirement. They came to us at 55 as the youngest client we ever had. And the amount of terrible stories, and you're gonna share some of your stories today. But it's an interesting way from prison reform.
Yep.
So always dealing with the legal system in one way or another.
Yep.
I can't even say you're changing sides, just a different team altogether.
Totally. Yeah.
So all right. So now your firm, just give us a little quick description of your firm.
Yeah, so we are Sammartino and Sultan. We actually formed a firm this year, January of 2025. So we're going to be celebrating our 1-year anniversary soon, and it's going great. I merged with another estate planning attorney, Christina Sammartino. She's really the elder law, Medicaid attorney, whereas my practice had focused on parents of minor children, because most people don't know that minors can't inherit, and so if they die, it just is a huge mess through the court system. So combined, we really do it all. So special needs trust planning, Medicaid planning, elder and estate planning, as well as probate when someone didn't do the planning ahead of time, or if they did a will. Where there's a will, there's probate, as my good friend Janet Nation always says. And so making sure, Right. So our main office is in Lindenhurst, on the island. We also have offices in Wantagh and Garden City.
Oh, wow. They're not that far apart.
No, but we do want to be accessible.
Right.
People in Garden City don't want to cross over
Right.
to Suffolk.
Right.
And just because of the nature of the work, we also travel. So we'll go to nursing homes. We'll go to people's houses if they're homebound, because, we want people we don't want travel to be a reason why they don't do estate planning. So.
That's important. Most attorneys don't do that.
Right.
And that's huge. The fact that you'll go to, and especially nursing homes where people do their last minute planning, if you will.
Yeah. And on the topic of power of attorney, that's so important to have if you're in a nursing home.
Absolutely.
So,
that seems like a perfect segue.
There you go.
So let's talk power of attorney. Okay. So you said you're going to share some stories with us about power of attorney, but before you do that, let's discuss what a power of attorney is.
Yeah, great. So power of attorney is a legal document that I would sign giving somebody else power to make legal and financial decisions on my behalf. They're primarily used when somebody loses capacity. So, for example, my mom had dementia. She stopped being able to sign her checks. She stopped knowing dates. If I would ask her, what year are we in? She'd start with 19.
Right. Yeah.
So then because she had signed a power of attorney before she lost capacity, I was able to take over and manage all of her finances. I was also able to sign documents to put her into a assisted living facility because I had that legal authority as well. It's amazing because it's a one page, it's a
Right.
one document.
Right.
It takes maybe 30 minutes to fill out.
Right.
If you hire an attorney, it's a couple $100 generally to do it. Without a power of attorney and you need one, the family has to go through guardianship. In different states, they call it different things, but in New York, it's called a guardianship proceeding. It's done through the Supreme Court of New York. It's a very invasive procedure. You've got attorneys all over the place. An attorney has to be appointed for the alleged incapacitated person. There's evaluators. They're going through bank accounts, houses, medical records. It's the last thing you ever want any family member to endure. So, and we're talking about costs too. I mean,
Right.
a retainer for guardianship is easily $5,000 to $10,000,
Yep.
whereas a power of attorney, as I said, could be a few hundred.
I'm not an attorney, and I said I don't play one on television or on a podcast, but we're real estate, leave the key home buyers. We buy houses from people, and most of the homes we buy are from seniors. And we've had to go through this with some of our sellers where the kids don't have a power of attorney on mom and dad. Or usually it's mom or dad in this case, don't have the capacity to sell their own home.
Yep.
They're moving to a facility.
Yep.
They need to sell the home
Yep.
to get the money to move into the facility. And it can take months of time.
Right.
And as you said, thousands of extra unnecessary dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We see it a lot.
The trick to power of attorney is obviously doing it early.
Yeah.
But also I have to have someone I trust that I'm going to appoint as my agent because let's be clear, once somebody is my agent, they can take that document to a bank and withdraw all the money. They have full legal rights to do that. So it really makes sense when you have a trusted spouse, trusted family member, trusted friend. It gets hairy when you don't have that. But generally speaking, most people have someone that they trust, and it's much better to have that. And I will say,
You finish. Go ahead. I have a thought on that.
It's really important to maybe have two people, right? Because if the first person that you appoint dies or is no longer able to act, then the power of attorney fails. So you have to have a successor agent appointed.
I'm glad I let you say that before I was going to say what I was going to say, because it's, once again, a perfect segue. I was going to say the problem is not having anybody. The other problem is having too many. Because sometimes you have 4 kids.
Yep.
You don't want 4 kids having having power of attorney.
Right.
How do you choose one or two? One first, one is a contingent. That becomes a sticky situation as well. Mm-hmm. And there's no real good answer for that, except sometimes it's geographically. I lived 10 minutes from my parents. My in-laws lived on my property.
Yeah.
So where the rest other siblings and sibling in-laws lived out of state. So we were easy, but most people don't have that. And also, I come from my financial background, so it's a logical choice. My brother was in Europe. What good is he going to do?
Right.
Mom, dad didn't care. So we were easy, but most people don't have it that easy. And my siblings and I and my sister and her brother get along real well, so it's not an issue.
Right.
A lot of siblings are very offended.
Yep.
Do you have a way of dealing with that? Because I don't know if there is a way of dealing with that.
Right. It's a great point. Family dynamics are complex.
Yes.
So planning can be complex as well.
You're a psychologist more than an attorney for that.
Sometimes, or mediators. The more people involved, the more complicated, right? So generally the power of attorney, if you're going to have co-agents, they have to both be at the bank signing the signature card. They have to both sign the check. They have to both sign the documents unless you specifically state each one can act independently. So the best way to do it is, family meeting, sort of come up with a plan. If they can't work it out, then it's just going to be constant fighting. So you got to pick one. That's not an easy answer.
Right.
Wishing you all the best in that journey. Ideally, making sure that you're picking the one that the family hates the least.
That's right. Well said. Yeah, that's very good. Okay, but I sort of interrupted you with that because but the other question I have, when you have nobody, Well, I know an answer. When you have no one who you really could trust in someone, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's a sticky situation. I mean, we're dealing with someone right now, a client who wanted to appoint his financial planner because
Right.
he fully trusts his financial planner, but there's a conflict for the financial planner. The financial planner would literally have to give up the management power
Right.
over the money in order to be the power of attorney, which he doesn't want to do. So we had to kind of scour for someone. An attorney can do it. But yeah, absent picking someone, it's the court's going to pick someone. And that's a whole other, the
Right.
guardianship proceeding is a list of people who've done an
Right.
8-hour training
Right.
and they are qualified
Right.
to be a quote guardian. And, there's a lot of horror stories about those people being
Really?
appointed.
Shocking. Shocking. The
Yeah.
but you made a comment about the financial advisor. I did that for 30 years. And I've been asked to take that role, and I've declined.
Hmm.
But one of my professional acquaintances, I was going to say friend, but an acquaintance, he was asked, this woman had no family whatsoever, and she wanted to be his POA. And he said, he can't be. She said, and she also wanted to make him the sole beneficiary of her estate.
Mm.
And he said, you can't do that. I can't make you I can't sign those docs. I'll let you sign those docs. So they went to compliance, and compliance said no.
Hmm.
And then they had a meeting with her, and she said, I want him because if he's the beneficiary of my money, he's going to take the best care of my money anyone's ever going to
True.
take of it. And I want him. And they got her signed all sorts of documents, and he was allowed to be POA and the beneficiary of her. And it was a multi-million-dollar estate. And he
Wow.
became but there was a lot of hoops to jump through. But there's actually logic to her thinking.
Yep.
I have
Yep.
no one else I care about. I
Right.
want to make sure this money's well taken care of.
Yep.
And who's going to take care of it then? The person's going to inherit it, not invested poorly.
Right.
So I thought it was a very interesting concept from an elderly woman who was
Yeah.
probably in her mid-80s at the time. So I'm looking at you,
Yeah.
looking up the ceiling, thinking that's not bad.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it sounds like it worked out. I probably would have structured it as a trust
Oh, that they may have done something like
because you
that.
don't get compensation technically as a power of attorney agent,
No, but he was.
but he
Oh,
would as a trustee.
oh, they may have had to do
Yeah,
that. That I
so
don't
just to
know.
clarify for
Right.
our listeners, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a thankless, what's the word? Thankless task.
Absolutely, it's a thankless
You're
task.
not technically paid for
Right.
as being an agent unless
Yes.
you have an agreement with
Right.
the principal.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
watching you look up at the sky, looking for thinking of the answers. That's what I did. The same thing. So my cat would sit there and look, and you see him reading the code. He would you see his eyes going back and forth. He visualized the page. It was
Interesting.
fascinating.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, so we're discussing. So what does a power of attorney actually do? We're talking about choosing a power of attorney, which
Yep.
is a thankless job to be chosen, and sometimes a difficult job to choose.
Yep.
And then once you're chosen, what is the role of the power of attorney? What does the actual document do?
Yeah. So once there's an agent appointed, the document has different powers.
Right.
So you can give someone power to sell real estate, to sell goods, to do banking, to do insurance. I mean, generally for estate planning, we want the agent to have full powers.
Right.
There's also gift giving powers, which we specifically use when we're doing Medicaid planning, right? If we're
Mm-hmm.
moving a bunch of money out of someone's name into
Right.
a trust, we have to have gift giving powers. But it can also be limited. So, it's you would ideally speak to an estate planning attorney about, how
Do you
to
know one?
sign one. I do. So yeah, and most, it's very common, as you
Right.
mentioned, to be used in real estate,
Right.
and especially banking. And the biggest worry, I would say, or the biggest concern is don't do the whole, oh, I'm going to save some money and download the
Right.
power of attorney online, because I know you want to hear stories. And
Yes.
we've definitely seen people download the wrong form or
Right.
have it signed incorrectly, and then it's it's void. It won't work.
Right.
But if it's done correctly, then it can either have full powers or limited powers for what's needed. Yeah.
Right. Correct. I know I've had them for both my folks, and they came in very handy, multiple times. And you're right. It's a role you really don't want to take on. It's a role you don't want to take, especially when you're the child.
Mm-hmm.
And I say child, I was in my 60s and my 50s at the time. Because you're taking over for your parents who can no longer do it.
Yeah.
And it's a sad role.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
And no matter who you are, you're taking over someone who can't do, whether a spouse or a child. But so you're talking about stories. Let's go to where you just said people. It's so easy to download this form for nothing.
Yep.
Versus pay an attorney something.
Yep.
For a form that's so simple. You download it, you check a couple of boxes, and you sign it. What could go wrong? Nothing.
Yeah. Well, so I'm in an unfortunate situation with a client who did a power of attorney with an attorney. Great job. Misplaced it.
Okay.
Nobody knows where it is. And she's completely lost capacity. She's in a nursing home. They have the house in a trust that also the documents cannot be found.
Oh, gosh.
And because she's completely lost capacity, we're now having to do guardianship because of the simple fact that nobody knows where the power of attorney is.
So no one knows the attorney who did the documents.
The attorney who did the documents has retired for her own medical reasons.
Okay.
And she, when we were able to get a hold of her, she said, I gave them copies already.
Okay.
I don't have them anymore.
Okay.
So yes. So learning lesson number 1 is make sure that your agents have a copy. Mm-hmm. Make sure that it's stored in a safe place. Because if you're going to pay someone to do the document, you want to make sure you'd have it when you need it.
Right.
So this is a very unfortunate scenario. So now we are gearing up for guardianship. Thousands of dollars.
How long does it take?
I estimate we'll have it by January. We're in October now, almost October. A few months. It takes a few months. Yeah.
And the few months is critical time sometimes. You don't always have a few months. Is there a way to, if you're in a do or die, I use that term, situation, is there a way to expedite that or another is not?
No.
That's because we're not famous.
I mean, I think you could probably make an application, but you have to keep in mind that when a court gets involved, they have to declare somebody incapacitated, and then basically they take away their rights to make their own decisions.
Right.
So courts are not, looking to do that in a speedy way. They are reluctant. They have to, do all the boxes and make sure they've done their due diligence. And so they appoint evaluators and attorneys to really assess if we're going to take away someone's rights that we've done it appropriately. So, yeah.
And usually you're in a rush.
Yeah.
Because everyone's to the last minute.
Everyone's trying to sell the house. They're trying to get the money from the banks. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
The other thing I've seen is people signed I've talked about the online filling out the wrong form. The story I have, of course, is as to be expected. Somebody went online. They filled out the form, filled it out wrong. They thought they had consulted with some attorney allegedly who said, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then when they went to, just as you said, sell the house to pay for the nursing home care, the title company rejected it, said it's not done right.
Yep.
And by that time, the person had lost capacity and so was not able to sign a new one. Guardianship.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Okay. I've encountered that I've encountered that more times in real estate than I have in the financial business, ironically enough.
Yeah.
I did that for 30 years. That's twice as long as I'm doing this business. And maybe the world's just getting older. I don't know, or people are getting sloppier. But the horrifying story, they thought of going through the process, and you're right. They declare you incompetent.
Yeah.
And you're right. And the court doesn't like doing that. I remember that from decades ago. Yeah. But any other things you want to share on that? Because I have something I want to ask.
The other one I was going to share that's just flew out of my mind. Maybe it'll come to me later.
No, you're in front of millions of people. Don't worry. No pressure. No pressure. So anyway, okay. I think this is a Johnny Carson show or something. Anyway, also dating myself.
Hi, I'm Larry. And I'm Ben. We're the father and son team of Leave the Key Home Buyers, and we want to buy your house.
We specialize in working with seniors who are transitioning out of their homes, and we understand what you were going through.
So if you're considering selling your home and would like an alternative to the traditional overwhelming process, reach out and see how we can help.
Do you have an outdated home?
No need to update anything.
Have a home that needs repairs?
Don't bother with repairs.
Don't want to take everything with you?
Leave whatever you want behind.
Dreading the headaches that come with agents?
Sell your home without paying a commission.
Dreading prying neighbors, attending open houses, and passing judgment on your home?
No need for public showings.
When you sell to us, you'll have all the certainty of closing on your timeline, not someone else's, and there's absolutely no pressure.
Visit leavethekey.com or call us today for a no-obligation offer at 631-388-7771 if you want to sell your home today.
There is a sister document that goes along with a POA.
Yeah, the healthcare proxy.
That's a biggie.
So again, power of attorney is for legal and financial decisions, and healthcare proxy is for healthcare decisions. So who can make healthcare decisions for you, whether to have surgery, whether to pull the plug, that's going to be the healthcare proxy. A lot of people, you can get this from a doctor's office. If you've ever had a medical procedure, the doctor's office usually has you fill it out. It needs 2 witnesses.
The hospital, I know you go for surgery.
Right. And so if you've ever done that, you want to keep that document, keep a copy, because that's a big deal. If you don't have healthcare proxy, again, you might have to have a guardianship proceeding. I think some people take for granted, well, I'm married. Of course, my spouse can take over. And no, we are autonomous individuals. Maybe for better or for worse, our spouse cannot make those decisions
better
for
or for
us.
worse. That's well said.
Yeah, and so that's the big famous Terry Schiavo case, right?
Yes.
So she was very young. She had a heart attack because she had a very bad eating disorder in her 20s, and she did not have a healthcare proxy, so her husband had to get guardianship over her. And every time he tried to pull the plug, thinking that's what she wanted, the parents would step in and appeal. And so this went on, and this was in Florida, fundamental Christian, strong beliefs in keeping her alive. And that went on for 7 years until finally the court said enough, no more appeals. And so he was able to pull the plug. But she all of that could have been avoided had they done a healthcare proxy.
Right. And one person has the right to make a decision, and that decision is speaking on behalf of her.
Right.
It's as though she said it.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
Stepping into the shoes of the person.
That's what
as
they
we
say. Much more eloquent than I said.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I did remember the point I wanted to make about power of attorney, which is very New York specific. In New York, we have a new form. So in 2021, the state of New York adopted a statutory new power of attorney form because the old form was being rejected by the banks. And I mention this because some people say, oh, don't worry, I did my power of attorney 15 years ago. I'm all set. But that document's probably sitting in your closet or in your desk drawer and hasn't yet been submitted to the bank for approval. And so there's a possibility that when you submit the old version to the bank, it will be rejected. The new power of attorney that came out in 2021 requires notary and 2 witnesses.
Notary and 2 witnesses.
Yes. So that secures, sort of to the bank.
Right.
This is going to be a valid power of attorney. So there's less rejection happening. So this was very intentionally done to protect people.
Yeah.
So one thing to consider, if you think that you're all set and you've done a power of attorney, if you haven't done one since June of 2021, it may be worth getting a new one.
Let me ask a question about the witnesses. I've always heard when you witness a will, you want people who know you. Is that true or not necessary?
Well, here's the thing. The reason people need to witness a will is because if there's a challenge to the will, if there's an allegation of undue influence or incapacity, they didn't know what they were signing, then a witness has to be called in to verify we knew that he knew or she knew what they were signing. So if you don't know the witnesses, how are you going to find them?
Right.
Well, 10 years from now, you got to find these witnesses. Sometimes you see it's a sloppy signature with a messy address, and you got to try to find them.
And that same would apply to witnesses on a POA.
Yep.
Okay. So it's not you're at the bank. So it's not as though you're at the bank and you just say, "Oh, can those 2 people be my witness?"
I mean, it's done many times over and over again.
Okay.
Yeah, and in an ideal scenario, the witnesses are easy to find and know the person very well.
Right.
But I just sent a client to the bank, and the bank notarized and provided witnesses to the signer.
Because otherwise, if the bank's going to provide the witnesses, there are other people in the bank. That seems easy.
Yeah.
But if you're going to provide your own witnesses, does that mean you all have to go to the bank together? To the notary together?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Well, for power of attorney specifically, they're notarizing the principal, the signer, and the witnesses don't have to be notarized.
Right, but they have to be there to witness the signer signing.
Yeah.
Which is happening when the notary's there.
Yeah.
So that for all intents and purposes, the witnesses have to be there when the notary's there.
Yep.
So which makes it more complicated.
Yep.
So, but I see the validity in what they're trying to do. It just makes life more complicated.
Yep.
But I'm sure there's much foul play that has gone on historically.
Oh, yeah.
So I could see that. Sometimes I get very angry at the government for doing things. This one, This one makes sense. This
Yeah.
one, I'll buy. I'll buy this
Yeah.
one. Okay, good one, government. New York State. I was going to ask a question about that. So if you have an old one, so you're saying the banks are the ones most likely to reject it? So
Yes.
you could bring that to the bank and see if they accept it. If they don't
Exactly.
accept it, then go get an updated
Exactly.
one.
Yep.
That's the easier one.
Yeah.
Um,
But once you file it with the bank, it's on file. So you
Right.
just have to remember you've now given the bank the authority to authorize said agent
okay,
full
Got it.
access to your bank account.
got it. Now, I may be saying something that predates you, but something that exists now. The in full force and effect letter, which that happened, as far as I know, during my tenure in the financial advisory business, because one day, one of the companies was not accepting an old POA.
Yep.
And they said, it's too old. How do we know it's still valid?
Correct.
I said, that defeats the purpose of a POA. You sign it when you're 60, you become incapacitated when you're 70. You want to know when they're 70, they're incapacitated.
Yep.
They said they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. They were just rejecting it. And I was losing my mind because I'm trying to help my client, and there's no logic to
Yeah.
this. And they came back, which I think this is brand new at the time. And they came back and said, oh, there's something called in full force and effect letter.
Affidavit.
I said, what is that? It was new to me. And they sent me something. It took them a day to get me something. I think they had to come up with something. And it was an insurance company. And they sent me something, and I had the POA actually signed it, saying that I acknowledge I'm still the POA,
Yeah.
which seems like the fox guarding the hen house.
I agree. It seems like a self-serving document.
It just
Yeah.
protects in some crazy way the institution. That's
Right.
all it's doing. It's not
Exactly.
protecting the client or the
Right. So the agent who's
Yeah.
now has authority is saying that the power of attorney has not been revoked.
Right.
I have no notice of any changes,
Right.
and I am still the agent, and
Right.
I'm going to sign this in front
Trust
of
me.
a notary. Yeah.
Trust
Yeah.
me.
It's a little, yeah, I think you're right. I think that it is to protect the institutions.
Right.
There's really no way to verify if it's
Right.
been revoked otherwise.
Right.
In some cases, someone, like with a real estate closing, the title closer will try to call the principal. But in most cases, the principal is incapacitated. So
What it's going to do? Correct.
yeah, and just to make sure everyone, the record is clear, power of attorney dies when the principal dies.
Well said.
So it does not survive. It cannot be used after the principal dies.
I've had so many people want to sell their parents' home
Yep.
with a POA. I said,
After they died.
After
Yeah.
they said, you can't do that.
Nope.
The POA's, the POA shouldn't bury with your folks. It
Yep.
just it has no value. But she said, I'm in charge while she was alive.
Right.
And we get that a lot. We get that. And they said, but we have to now go through probate. So you have to go through probate regardless. And it becomes, that's a whole nother
Yep.
podcast.
Yep.
We've done numerous podcasts on probate. That's a nightmare in itself.
Yep.
So this we're not going down that rabbit hole. But with that said, so now we know that if you have one, confirm with your institutions that they're accepting it.
Yep.
If it's already been filed with them, it's accepted. Don't
Yeah.
just keep it in your top drawer and then one day have your son show up with it or your daughter show up with it.
Right. And no doubt when you go to take it to the bank to be approved, they're going to want that full force and effect affidavit because that is standard practice now.
Okay. Even if it's a new POA?
That's a good question. So our practice now is to not have the agent sign the power of attorney until they're ready to use it. Because that way, when the agent's signing,
Okay.
it's a recent notary.
Okay, so the agent, just to make it clear, is the person who's in charge now, who is receiving the POA, not
Yes.
the person who's giving up authority.
That's
okay.
right. We call that the principal.
A principal and the agent, okay.
Yeah, and so the agent is the person acting on
Right.
behalf of someone else. So we generally have them sign the power of attorney in front of the notary to act as the agent when they're going to use it. And that seems to avoid the need for the bank to use the full force and effect affidavit. This is really into the thick of it.
For people listening, not watching, I'm sort of squinting and not knowing what to think of that. I'm going to say that makes no sense to me. Am I missing something?
Well, the agent doesn't need it to be. It's the principal has to sign when they're appointing someone.
Of course, otherwise they won't be able to sign
Yeah.
when it's needed. But by the principal signing later, how does that make it any more or less current?
No, not
or
the
valid?
the principal doesn't sign
Not
later.
the, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
the agent signing later, how does that make it any more or less valid?
It's showing that now I'm using it. Now I need it.
Okay. Where if he
So
signed it 5 years ago, but now he needs it.
yeah, then they will require the full force and effect affidavit. So
Oh, because right, he's saying that I'm in charge, but if he's signing it now, he's saying I'm in charge without the letter. I
yeah,
got it.
yeah,
I know what the whole in full force and effect letter seems crazy to me.
yeah,
So this seems like it just follows the same
yeah.
logic. Okay.
And let's be clear, what Citibank does is different
Right.
than what Chase does, is different than TD Bank does. So these rules are not standardized. So good luck
Yeah, there you go. There you
at
go.
your bank. Yep.
So, and then the other issue is, so if I'm banking with Chase, and let's say I bank with Chase, my folks bank with TD,
Hmm.
and then now my folks become incapacitated, but I bank in Chase. So I move the money over to Chase. I have to have that approved by Chase now because I'm using it.
Yeah.
So TD Bank already approved they're going to let me take the money out,
Yeah.
but they're going to want the in full force and effect letter
Yeah.
because times. But now Chase is going to want to approve that. So before I move the money there, I should really make sure they approve it.
Yep.
Because if I move the money, they probably wouldn't open the account without approving
the
it.
whole process is not a one day in and out.
Okay.
You always have to submit the POA to the bank.
Okay.
Bank sends it to their legal department
Got
to
it.
approve it, and then a couple days later they'll call you and say, okay, you can come back. It's been approved. So it's a process, and for those of you out there with several bank accounts
Yeah.
at different locations, which you get a bonus if you create an account at this one, and
Right.
you get a bonus. Consolidate
Right.
to benefit
Thank
your
you.
family, please.
Thank you.
A story I like to tell is one of my best friends died during COVID. He managed all of the money for his family, his wife. So when he died, she had no idea where their money was. She got in the car and she drove to every bank in the neighborhood and she found 14 different accounts.
Oh my gosh.
We thought that was
She
all.
just went to the banks not
Do
knowing
I
if there's
have
money
money
there.
here? Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And so she found 14 different accounts and we, assumed that was it. And of course that wasn't it. So some went to unclaimed funds. So then we still had to go through the unclaimed fund process, which if you don't know what unclaimed funds is, it's great. Everybody can
Right.
go onto your state's unclaimed funds website, see if you have money there, fill out a form and get it. But if someone's died,
Right.
you have to go through the probate process. You have to get and money goes to unclaimed funds usually after a year or 2 years
Right.
of being in an inactive account,
Right.
or a check that was never cashed because it was lost in the mail. There's like $7 billion in
Yes.
unclaimed funds right now.
That's nationally.
Yes.
Nationally, $7 billion.
Yeah.
That's a chunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's making some great interest.
Right.
And I wonder what they're doing with the money. But
Right.
yeah, so I would get your money out if you can, but don't let your money go in there. So consolidate is the key.
Again, back in advisory days, I tell to my clients all the time, the other comment I make is, unrelated to really what we're talking about, but have a list of your assets. Even if you only have 2 or 3 accounts, have a list of your broker
Yep.
with his name,
Yep.
his phone number, the firm he works for, ideally your account numbers, even an older statement. So you have something attached to this piece of paper. And my dad did that for me, and he had 2 or 3 pages. We're business people, many
Right.
businesses. He had 2 or 3 pages, chapter and verse of everything.
Good.
I keep it updated myself on my computer.
Yeah.
Every year I update my information. You never know. I'm 67, but stuff happens.
Yeah.
So,
well, step 1 is making the list. Step 2 is giving it to somebody.
Right.
There's the great story of the guy who's like, I've got my will. It's in the safe. I've got my list. It's in the safe. Everybody's like, okay, great. Where's dad's stuff? It's in the safe. Dad dies.
List combination.
Yep.
Yeah. That's probably classic. Yeah. So, okay. So we're talking about the sister document.
Okay. Healthcare proxy. Yeah. So, I think that's pretty
So
straightforward.
you're saying that that's it. So that's something you get from an attorney.
So when you come to us, for example, we give you a package. So if you want a healthcare package, so to speak, we do power of attorney, we do healthcare proxy, living will, and remains agent form.
What's that last one?
Remains agent,
Okay.
or control of agent remains. So to distinguish the
Yeah.
terms, so healthcare proxy is you're appointing
Yeah.
someone to make healthcare decisions. The living will, not to be confused with the last will and testament. And I don't know why we couldn't, in the English
Yes.
language, come up with some other words
Right, yes.
to describe 2 completely different documents. Living will is basically your wishes if you're incapacitated, whether you want your agent to pull the plug.
Right.
So
And
either you do or you don't.
And the difference between that and the healthcare proxy, you may want to elaborate on that a little bit. They
Yeah.
seem to overlap.
Well, the healthcare proxy gets to
Right.
make the decision.
Right. It just appoints who gets to do the thing.
And the living will says what your wishes
Correct.
are.
Yeah.
So I do want them to pull the plug, or I don't want them to pull the
And
plug.
I want this person to pull it.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So technically, if you don't want to be, you don't want the medical interventions to be withdrawn, then you would not sign a living will.
Mm-hmm.
So if your wishes are, I let my agent decide, please make sure you're having conversations with your family about what your wishes are, so that they know. But this way, it's in writing. I like to share my story. So my mom died this April. All my life, my mom had said, pull the plug. I don't want to be a burden to the family. I heard this in my head.
Yes.
I don't want to be a burden to the family. And then, of course, we were in a situation where my mom needed,
Yes.
she was in a hospital. She lost capacity. And, she was just being kept alive by artificial means. And so I knew in my head, okay, mom said pull the plug. But there was doubt. This is a big decision, guys.
Yes.
And
do you have siblings?
I do, but
Okay.
he was not helpful.
Okay.
And so luckily my mom did an estate plan.
Right.
I had power of attorney, I had healthcare proxy, and I had the living will. And right there in writing, it said, withdraw and pull the plug.
Right.
And so whenever I doubted what
Right.
I was doing, it was in writing.
Right.
So luckily I had that, and I was able to move forward with, difficult decisions, knowing it was all, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Famous lawyers saying.
Absolutely.
So.
I've said the story a bunch of times on this podcast. My mother had Lewy body dementia, and she was just a vegetable for 3 years. And her mother had senility at late 60s until she was 91.
Oh.
She started developing senility about 68 or so. So she said, if I ever get like grandma, she would tell me, put a pillow over my face. My grandmother's a very happy, senile person. I always say she never had ice cream. She always had an ice cream party. Right? Everything was a celebration to her. Everybody was new to her. She met me. I was new to her, even though I was her grandson. And she loved meeting people. But every time she met anybody, even as her own daughter, it was a new introduction. So she was a very happy person. My mother was a vegetable. She couldn't do anything. And she kept saying, if I ever get like grandma, put a pillow over my face. I'm thinking, I have to put a pillow over her face. But I can't kill my mother.
Right.
First, I'm not allowed to kill my mother. I'm able to say on the podcast because I did not put a pillow over my face. But actually, I had a pillow in my hands. I had a pillow in my hands. I want to put her out of her misery.
Yeah.
But I know I'm not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But I was so torn. She harped on this for years. For years, as you said, she burned it in my brain. I said, I'm going to go up to heaven one day, God willing. And first thing, my father's going to hug me. My mother's going to smack me. As I say, why did you put a pillow over my face? Why did you let me live like this? Let me live like this for 3 years. But when you have something in writing that's legal, it makes the decision much easier.
Yep.
If I was able to pull a plug, there was no plug to pull, unfortunately. If I was able to pull a plug, I would have pulled in a heartbeat. So I knew that's what she would have wanted. But you can only request so much.
Yeah.
You can't request to be killed.
Yeah.
So, but I feel your conflict, and trust me, I lived it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I could have done with mine.
Right.
So I empathize with that. But you had it in writing.
Yep.
It had to be so much more comforting.
Yep.
You knew you were doing what you wanted.
100%.
And okay.
And these are difficult conversations to have for sure. Yeah. So, using an estate planning attorney office obviously helps to facilitate it. At least the documents are there. So if something happens and you didn't want to share it, or you were scared or superstitious, whatever it is, there's an attorney that can deliver the message.
Right.
And then the last document I mentioned was remains agent. Sometimes it's needed, sometimes it's not, but it's basically declaring who has the authority to bury you, who has authority to make cremation versus burial decisions.
I never heard of this one.
Yeah, so it's also standard for us. I did again have to use this with my mom, and because we buried my mom in California, but I had to have her cremated in New York, it definitely was required. Most families don't fight about this, but we've seen, brother wants to cremate, sister wants her buried. Right. So who's going to make the decision? Well, whoever's on the form. So, yeah.
That's
and
also,
it can
where
get
is she
complicated.
Buried? I can see if you live in New York and he's living in California, I want mom near me. No, I want mom near me.
Right.
that could be an issue too.
Well, prepaid planning is a great tool for planning. So you can prepay for your funeral.
Right.
Usually get a discount because when you wait till someone dies, you're paying that bill all at once.
Yeah.
When you prepay, you get kind of like a frozen rate, as they say. Like, if you knew the price of eggs was going to stay at 25 cents, would you do it now?
Right. That's right.
Yeah, you probably would. So
Right.
then you get a flat rate. You can make payments over time. You know exactly where you're going to be. Family knows where you're going to be. It just makes things so much easier
It does.
for the family.
And
of course, there's a cost savings. So it's kind of a win-win.
And we're Jewish. We try to bury in 24 hours.
Yes.
Doesn't leave a lot of time to make these decisions.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's funny. We covered one seemingly little topic, but we've been probably speaking 30 minutes just on this one little topic. The point is, it's not a little topic.
Correct.
But people think it is because it's such a small document.
Yeah.
Far from innocuous.
Yeah.
And people have to understand, just because your will is, my will and trust are about 200 pages. But just because my will and trust 200 pages doesn't mean this 2-page or 3-page document has less significance.
Right.
And but I want to ask one thing, which, as an attorney, I don't know if you have any opinion or whatnot, but as far as organ donation, seems like you've sort of gone down this rabbit hole. Is there something I'm a big proponent of organ donation. And I was thought, being Jewish, we weren't supposed to, desecrate a body and so on. It's the ultimate, a sacrifice you can make is doing an organ donation. And it seems so wasteful to me to let organs go into the earth when so many people need them. Is there something you do with an attorney? I know I just signed up the organ donor organization, whatever it is, and it's on my license and so on. Is there, as an attorney, do you bring this up when you talk about planning?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. My attorney didn't bring it up with us.
Interesting. Yeah. No, we'd ask if a burial or cremation, we ask organ donation, and we ask if there's any special wishes. And we put it on the remains agent form that we've created. That it's statutory, but we add it on there.
Oh, that's interesting. Seems a logical place to have it.
Yeah. I mean, I find that this is an extremely personal decision. I mean, I sometimes I'll try to guess what my client's answers are going to be, but I never get it right. Yeah. So another story I have personally was when I was 15, my dad died.
Oh, gosh.
So 6 months before he died, he'd had a heart attack. So he was obviously thinking about this kind of stuff. And he said to me, Leslie, if I die, I want to be cremated. And I was 15. And I said, what's that?
Right.
I had no idea. And so he explained it to me. And so I took that note. And then my mom, my parents were divorced. When my dad died, my mom said, okay, we're going to bury your father. And I said, well, he wants to be cremated. And she said, how do you know? I said, well, you told me. So I live knowing that I was able to honor my father's wishes. And most people think you don't have that conversation with a teenager.
No.
But, I'm living proof that you can.
Right.
And I'm really grateful that I'm here to tell the story.
But now, was it anywhere written?
Nope. Not that I don't think my father did an estate plan.
Right. And who's the one who actually then ordered you at 15?
My mom took care of all that.
So she took care of They're divorced, but she still took care of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say there's a specific form, unless, again, you're prepaying for your funeral. So then you can take care of it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's part of the authority you have, as you're talking about with the form we're discussing.
So power of attorney can obviously take care of that for
you.
you.
Power of attorney wouldn't take care of that because you're already gone.
Oh, right. The remains agent. The remains agent. Yes.
So that's the form. I never heard of that, but it makes so much sense. But I'm pro. Again, please consider it if you haven't considered it. So many people need organs. I don't like this to be a platform for social justice or anything, but people need. Yeah. There's such a waiting list for things that we literally just throw out.
Yeah.
And your father who died, I don't know, I'm not going to ask if he donated or not. I'm sure it's less common than there probably is now. I don't know.
I'm not sure. But my mom, because my mom died of dementia, she had on there organ donation for her eyes. And so I took the liberty of donating her brain for research.
Oh, research. There you go.
Yeah, because it's such a horrible disease. And I'm like, anything I could do to help.
Yes.
So that, I feel good about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Also, what I did, I said I had no limit. I didn't know you can donate your skin, your bones. They take bones, all your kishkas, all your insides. They want much of that.
Yeah.
But so I said to my wife, is just bury something. Just leave something to bury. Put me in a box and put me in the ground. Whatever's left.
Right.
But they can take anything they want. And that's my only request.
Right.
So They don't want all my bones. I'm short. They want bones of taller people. So, but anyway, I don't know what they do with all these parts, but I know people donate their entire body to science for research. You donated your mom's brain, which was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, you can do the research now. I mean, with my mom, we were, kind of at the last minute scrambling to find it. But if this is something you're passionate about, there's so many ways to really look into it and get the right company. And you can tell the funeral parlor, and they connect everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So question for you. Normally, I ask, I'm debating if I want to do that. We had a whole different discussion. When I talk to people in different industries, they say, what's your differentiator from other people who find home healthcare aids and things like that? What makes you different than your competitors? And as an attorney, and we spent all this time talking about the technical stuff, we didn't talk about your firm or you. We just talked about you're in business, you're new, you're 20 years, 2 female attorneys at the helm, and 3 locations. But I'm listening to you, how deep you're able to dive into something, again, so seemingly superficial, clearly not at all. If you want to give a 1-minute commercial for yourself, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
I didn't prepare you with this question. I like things to be organic and so on, but I mean, you have 20 years experience. People think, oh, new firm, but that's not relevant. The firm's not relevant. It's
Correct.
you're relevant.
Right.
And I'm listening to you in the passion. I like the fact you have the personal experience. I'm kind of answering the question for you. You want someone, when I was an advisor, I bought long-term care insurance to me at 45 and my wife was 43 because I was selling it to my clients. I said, how can I sell it if I'm not willing to buy it?
Right.
And you've lived through estate planning through your parents.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You're not a 45-year-old who is just doing this theoretically, just doing this because it's what you learned.
Yeah.
You've experienced. I don't know if you want to add to that if people come to you.
Yeah, I mean, between me and my partner, Christina, she's been doing estate planning her whole career. She's been an attorney for 10 years now and always done estate planning. And she went to law school knowing she wanted to do this because her grandfather died and they scrambled at the last minute to get a will because that's what someone told them. And then boom, they wind up in probate. And then she learned about a trust. And so now we're both very passionate about educating our community. We like to say that we have great legal services at affordable rates. There's a lot of law firms out there that say, oh, well, let me see how much money you have. And then they charge. We do flat rates. There's a lot of attorneys out there. I would say if you're shopping around, call and see who calls you back. Because if they don't call you back for an initial call, they're not going to call you back when you have a question either.
Once they have your money, they're not going to call you.
Yeah. So we are extremely client services heavy.
Right.
We try to distinguish ourselves from those firms that nobody can get a hold of the attorney, nobody calls back. Just because we've needed attorneys. We know what that's like. The funny point that I've heard people say is that we are young. Right. So some people have attorneys that die.
Right. I was going to comment on that before when you talk about keeping a will in a safe place.
Right.
Yes.
So we have a benefit of being young,
right,
younger than most.
Yes.
And then again, we're accessible. So yeah, we have great responses, and hopefully from the conversation you could tell my goal is to simplify this. This is complicated, even for me. Estate planning can get very complicated, but our goal is to make it easy for people to understand, and that's generally the feedback we get that distinguishes us from others.
I think that's perfect. That was an excellent answer, but I want to elaborate on something you said. Because, again, from my previous life, and I would hear all these attorneys charge based on a percentage of assets. But I tell people, you can have a person, I have 7 or 8 businesses. Let's assume I'm worth $500,000. I have 7 or 8 independent businesses, and I have real estate in 3 states. And then you have a guy worth $20 million with a bank account, and $20 million in his bank account. They're going to charge him, was it 40 times more they're going to charge me, my estate? It doesn't make any sense. Right. It's a flat fee or it's the complexity. One or the other. You can't charge by asset base. And I see attorneys sit there and some attorneys. I want to clarify. With some attorneys, I have to be very careful with my language. I'm talking with attorneys. Well, some attorneys will sit there and get your asset list, and then they'll give you a price. and that will tell you how they bill, and that makes no sense.
Yeah.
A flat fee
Yeah.
is the logical way to go. I tell everyone who talks to me, how do I choose an attorney?
Yeah.
And I always say, you want it to bill you the flat fee.
Yeah.
When we do we're real estate people, we do evictions, the flat fee,
Yeah.
unless X, Y, and Z, and then that's an upcharge.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Billing by the hour is open-ended.
Right.
And, billing based on how expensive the house is would make no sense.
Right.
So why should they bill by how big your estate is? That
Yeah.
makes no sense. So that to me is important, and I agree with all the other comments you made. And I think being young, but yet 30 years of experience
Yeah.
between the two of you, that matters.
Yeah.
So you're young, but not without the experience.
Yeah.
And the life experience is huge. So my next question.
And just to be clear, we do need a list of assets, but the
Of
reason
course.
we're asking for the list of assets is so that we can make sure everything's being protected.
Of course.
Everything's being, so if you have the attorney saying, well, we need your list of assets and you're suspicious, one of the biggest things that we see in estate planning is people will do a trust.
Right.
And the attorney, of course, does the deed for them because that's an extremely complicated legal
Right.
document. But then everything else doesn't get into the trust because they leave it up to the client to do it. And
Right.
they say, okay, go do this. And the client's like, okay. And then wait, what was I supposed to do? So it's very common to have a trust and still need probate. So we like the list because we almost use it like a checklist.
Right.
So again, it's getting organized, like you said, and then going through, because after the trust is created, you have to do the work
Right.
to move it in. Some attorneys, like we would charge a fee if you want us to do all of that work for you.
Right.
But we tell our clients, what do you value more, your time or your
Right.
money? Because
Right.
if you have the time, you do it yourself. If
Right.
you don't have the time, you pay us, we'll do it for
Correct.
you.
It's something you can do.
Yeah.
But people just choose not to do it. They just don't get
Yeah.
around to it.
Yes.
I'm guilty. A lot of my assets are not in my
Yes.
trust. My bills and trusts are 200 pages. So anyway, and I paid a lot of money for those.
Yep.
But I didn't mean to imply you're not going to ask for assets. You need that. But your billing is not based on that list of assets.
Correct.
That's the key.
Yep.
So with that said, how do people get hold of you, Leslie?
Thank you for asking. So we are on the website. We are www.ss-lawgroup.com.
SSS.
I'm sorry, 2 S's for Sammartino and Sultan.
Okay, got it.
SS-Law Group.
Okay.
You can also just Google Sammartino and Sultan. Our phone number is 631-505-1086.
Why don't you repeat that?
631-505-1086. And I'm assuming you'll have on your podcast
We will.
links,
We do that.
so we'll provide all those.
We give all that stuff, how they get hold of you anyway. But
Yeah.
for those who are listening and don't
And
want
we're on social media for all the social media followers at sslawgroup.com or
Very good.
SS Law Group.
and people can find this podcast there when it's aired, and as well as other information for you. So, Leslie, I thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure, and I learned about a document I never heard of. So I always like when I learn something new,
Yeah.
which I do pretty much every podcast. So thank you very much for
Thank
coming.
you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Unlocking Senior Resources podcast by Leave the Key. If you've enjoyed this episode or found it helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast. We specialize in working with seniors who are transitioning out of their homes, and we understand what you are going through. So if you are considering selling your home and would like an alternative to the traditional overwhelming process, reach out to see how we can help. When working with us, you can sell your home in its current condition, there is no need to remove unwanted items, and you control when the house is sold, along with so many other advantages. Visit leavethekey.com or call us at 631-388-7771 to learn more about our senior home buying process.